Hello, Marvel fans! Spider-Man is one of the most recognizable characters in all of popular culture. Peter Parker is beloved by both adults and children, and his reputation as an everyman and one of Marvel's greatest heroes has won over fans around the world. Spider-Man comics have included some of the best and most important stories in the medium's history. Spider-Man's sheer adaptability, which allows him to smoothly move from bright, effervescent, child-friendly adventures to dark, contemplative, and mature ones, contributes significantly to the character's long-standing relevance. Of course, there have been hundreds of the best Spider-Man comics over the past 5 decades, but these are the best. But before we continue, if you love watching my videos, please subscribe to my channel and please hit the notification icon to remind you of my videos. And now, let's rock! Let's start in number 15. Coming Home introduced one of Spider-Man's most dangerous villains. J. Michael Straczynski's Coming Home revealed that the spider responsible for biting Peter Parker did so intentionally. Spider-Man was a spider totem, a multi-dimensional being linked to the web of life. Morlun, a persistent energy vampire, feeds on spider totems, which leads to an encounter with Spider-Man and the fight of his life. Coming Home is one of Spider-Man's most exhausting and depressing chapters, with Peter eventually understanding that defeating Morlun is exceedingly unlikely. The tale emphasized Spider-Man's determination, bravery, power, and creativity. Coming Home raised the stakes, as the wall crawler could actually die in battle at any moment. Well, you can't win it all. Okay, on to the next at number 14. Birth of Venom introduced. A classic villain. One of Marvel's greatest rivalries between Eddie Brock's Venom and Spider-Man debuted in 1988's The Amazing Spider-Man 300. A terrified Mary Jane revealed that a creature wearing Spider-Man's black costume had broken into their apartment, and Peter started to suspect that someone was following him. Peter's stalker was bitter ex-journalist Eddie Brock, who blamed Parker for his recent fall from grace. Bonded with the alien symbiote previously worn by Spider-Man, Eddie Brock became Venom to get revenge. Todd McFarlane's jaw-dropping art gave the resulting battle weight and substance, kicking Venom's comic book career off with a huge bang. Well, who doesn't love Venom? Okay, let's go. In number 13, Spider-Man Blue explored. Peter and Gwen's relationship. Writer Jeff Loeb and artist Tim Sale's Colors series continued with Spider-Man Blue, the series' crowning achievement. The story takes a pensive look at the iconic relationship between Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy before her untimely death at the hands of the Green Goblin. Spider-Man Blue takes set on Valentine's Day, and Peter dictates his thoughts about Gwen into a tape recorder while revisiting numerous crucial episodes from their relationship and his ultimate marriage to MJ. The entire book is a bittersweet look at the two most important figures in Spider-Man's history and how they influenced his development as a hero and a person. Next in number 12. Spider-Man made a bold declaration in No One Dies. Spider-Man is a character who is all too familiar with death. From his Uncle Ben to Gwen Stacy and countless others, Peter Parker has dealt with death more than most Marvel heroes. One such casualty was Marla Jameson, wife of J. Jonah Jameson, who died taking a bullet for her husband during B-list Spider-Man villain Alistair Smythe's violent crusade. Marla's death plagued Spider-Man with nightmares about individuals he'd lost over the years, including disturbing appearances by Uncle Ben, Gwen Stacy, and Jean DeWolf. Peter's mind is forced through a horrific hellscape of remorse and misery, attempting to understand the numerous deaths in his life before saying, "No one dies." Well, that's Peter Parker's life story. A hero with struggles. Next in number 11. Death of Spider-Man. Ended Peter Parker's story perfectly. Spider-Man. The legendary Death of Spider-Man arc in Ultimate Spider-Man drew widespread interest and outrage, even among non-comic book fans. Even though the death occurred outside of Marvel's mainstream continuity, several people found it difficult to accept that such a revered character would die. it heightened the impact of Peter's death. Peter Parker's death was particularly upsetting because he died in front of MJ, Aunt May, Johnny Storm, and Gwen Stacy. However, it provided the character with an emotionally charged and meaningful send-off. Peter's sacrifice inspired young Miles Morales to take on the mantle, ushering in a new era for one of Marvel's most popular new heroes. Well, this storyline is certainly one of my favorite Spider-Man story. In number 10. The Kid Who Collects Spider-Man is an emotional one-shot. Although it is not your standard Spider-Man adventure, The Kid Who Collects Spider-Man is one of the most popular entries in the Webhead's canon. Roger Stern wrote it as a backup narrative. However, The Kid Who Collects Spider-Man proved far more popular than the issue's primary subject. Spider-Man paid a visit to one of his most devoted followers, young Tim Harrison. The two exchanged anecdotes and stories, and Tim's positivity and admiration moved Spider-Man. Before leaving, Spider-Man disclosed his identity and origin to Tim. In the conclusion, viewers find that Tim has a terminal disease in one of Marvel's saddest yet most heartwarming stories. Oh, Tim, why do you have to leave? Enough with these sad storylines. Next, in number 9, the Sinister Six introduced Marvel's most dangerous supervillain team. The Sinister Six, led by the recently freed Dr. Octopus, included Spider-Man's most terrifying opponents, such as Mysterio, Electro, Kraven the Hunter, Sandman, and Vulture. They conspired to assassinate Spider-Man and kidnapped Betty Brant and Aunt May to draw him out. With each character wanting to deliver the final blow to the wall crawler, they decided to attack him one at a time. All right, just bring it. In an action-packed series of beautifully illustrated battles, Spider-Man faced each member of the Sinister Six. The introduction of the Sinister Six solidified Spider-Man as one of Marvel's most formidable heroes, as he survived the seemingly endless gauntlet of villains through sheer determination and quick thinking. As Thor once said, "Is that all you got?" Okay, next in number 8, Spider-Man No More is a classic Spider-Man story. Spider-Man No More is one of the most recognizable issues of The Amazing Spider-Man ever published. The sight of Peter Parker walking away from his discarded Spider-Man suit has etched itself deeply into the public's collective mind. In Spider-Man No More, the worn-out Peter Parker ultimately gives up the mantle of Spider-Man. Spider-Man No More also introduced the Kingpin, one of Marvel's most powerful villains, who used Spidey's absence to expand his criminal empire. Peter recognized he couldn't give up being a superhero, so he continued his profession. The storyline has grown so legendary that it was adapted for the big screen in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2 in 2004. Y'all know this story, right, Marvel fans? Well, anyway, we're down in number 7. How Green Was My Goblin ignited Spider-Man's greatest rivalry. How Green Was My Goblin is a must-read for aficionados since it marks the moment when Spider-Man's deadliest opponent discovered his true identity, and vice versa. Green Goblin's sneaky plan to reveal Spider-Man's identity was successful after he dimmed his spider sense. Green Goblin pursued the hero without using his spider sense and eventually discovered his secret. The Green Goblin defeated Spider-Man before tying him up and unmasking himself as Norman Osborn, the father of Peter's best friend, Harry. This signified the start of the increasingly toxic relationship between Peter, Norman, and Harry. How Green Was My Goblin is one of the most vital chapters in the wall crawler's early years. Okay, Peter, don't tell Harry. Let's go to number 6. Spider-Man learned, nothing can stop the Juggernaut. After getting a call from a distressed Madam Web, Spider-Man discovered that the Juggernaut intended to capture her at the request of the villain, Black Tom Cassidy. Spider-Man was unable to stop the Juggernaut using traditional methods when the demon Cyttorak granted him a supernatural force that made him entirely unstoppable. To defeat the ruthless adversary, he had to think outside the box. Nothing Can Stop the Juggernaut lacks major plot points, groundbreaking narrative choices, and mind-blowing revelations. However, Roger Stern's excellent story shines through in the banter between Spider-Man and Juggernaut, while John Romita Jr.'s energetic artwork adds to the book's tremendously entertaining combat sequences. Oh, Spidey, you don't mess with the unstoppable Juggernaut. Now, we are in the top 5 Spider-Man story. Spider-Man, introduced the world's greatest hero. Stan Lee created Amazing Fantasy number 15 with legendary art by Steve Ditko, and it included the introduction of Peter Parker and the life-changing radioactive spider bite that transformed him into Spider-Man. It also included the death of Uncle Ben, who would lead Spider-Man's quest. There are plenty of classic moments in just 11 short pages, which is an impressive effort for any comic. Stan Lee's naturally engaging narrative and Steve Ditko's vibrant art charmed fans. Despite his tragic roots, Peter Parker's uneasy relatability and eventual resolve to become a force for good became one of Spider-Man's most prominent attributes. Amazing Fantasy number 15 made Spider-Man the definitive superhero, making it one of the most essential Marvel comics ever. This comic started it all. Thanks, Stan. Next on number 4. The Death of Jean DeWolff. Of all the stories addressing the darker side of Spider-Man, Peter David's The Death of Jean DeWolff may just be the greatest. The Sin Eater, a serial killer, murdered Jean DeWolff, a police captain and close friend of Spider-Man. Spider-Man's anguish is palpable, so he joined forces with Daredevil to put an end to Sin Eater's reign of terror. Spider-Man was finally pushed to his limits when the killer targeted Betty Brant, and he nearly beat Sin Eater half to death. Spider-Man later redeemed himself by rescuing Sin Eater from a vengeful lynch mob seeking justice for DeWolff's death. A dark and groundbreaking entry into Spider-Man's continuing saga, The Death of Jean DeWolff is both compelling and melancholic. Hold your webbing, we are now in number 3. If This Be My Destiny unlocks Spider-Man's true heroism. If This Be My Destiny is easily one of the most beloved stories in the entirety of Stan Lee and Steve Ditko's legendary run on The Amazing Spider-Man. Dr. Octopus, in his Master Planner identity, stole several pieces of high-tech equipment that contained a cure for Spider-Man's sick Aunt May. Spider-Man confronted Doc Ock, who set his underwater base to self-destruct. Several tons of heavy gear entrapped the tired Spider-Man. He summoned all of his power to heroically escape from the wreckage and rescue his beloved Aunt May. It was one of the first Spider-Man sagas, combining multiple issues into a single plot. This allowed Lee and Ditko to tell a deeper, more compelling narrative with an unforgettable scene. Next, in number 2. Kraven's Last Hunt is Spider-Man's darkest story. Despite its profoundly intimate and self-contained nature, Kraven's Last Hunt has the air of an event comic. Kraven the Hunter is portrayed as one of Spider-Man's most complex and disturbing enemies. Kraven defeated Spider-Man, sedated him, and then buried him alive. He subsequently assumed the identity of Spider-Man in order to demonstrate his superiority as a hero. When the sedation wore off, Spider-Man dug out of his tomb to confront Kraven, motivated by a desire to reunite with his wife. The Hunter killed himself, denying Spider-Man the opportunity for vengeance. Written by the amazing J.M. DeMatteis and Mike Zeck's accompanying art are both fascinating and disturbing, resulting in one of the finest comic book stories ever written. All right, Marvel fans, you all ready for number 1? Before we go to number 1, Spidey Comics. If you made it this far, please give this video a like. You can also comment your favorite Spider-Man storyline. And now let's go back. In number 1, The Night Gwen Stacy Died is the most tragic Spider-Man story. The Night Gwen Stacy Died depicts one of the most pivotal moments in Spider-Man's career and the comic book business. The death of his first love shook Peter Parker for years, driving him to grow as a person and a hero. The plot startled comic book fans and writers with the previously unheard-of death of a key supporting character. Why does all good story has to be tragic? Wait, I ain't crying, Marvel fans. Let's continue. The narrative eventually ushered in a new era of comic books, with authors taking increasing chances with their characters and presenting darker, more mature storylines. Created by the dream combo of Jerry Conway and Gil Kane, The Night Gwen Stacy Died is unquestionably the single greatest Spider-Man story ever told that also left its influence on the comic industry. And that's the end of this video. Do you all agree of this ranking? You can comment down your answers. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on my next video, Marvel fans. Bye-bye.